Real fans, real talk. It's Trip Young, and of course we right here, Bronx Net Studios in the Bronx, coming to you for another episode of the best sports news and talk show on TV, the Beta Award-winning news and sports show on TV. I know y'all missed that award-winning intro today, but I was just so excited to get onto the set. I said, you know what? No intro for the day. We just going straight into the program. Now I'm gonna tell y'all why, because Trip Young, y'all know Trip Young, y'all know the Real Fans Real Talk team. Y'all know we love the kids here on Real Fans Real Talk, and I've been working with a special group of kids the past couple of weeks, teaching them the art of film and whatnot. So I told them today that I was going to take a time out on the show to shout those kids out. So to all of the kids at 212 that I've been working with the past week, what's going on? Shout out to all of y'all. I ain't gonna say everybody's name because that would just be too much. But Edwin, Ty, Don, the rest of y'all, I'm coming for y'all next week on the basketball court. Now let's get into this show. Sean Fontaine, what's going on?
My Cowboys won. That's always a plus. The Giants lost. That's always a plus.
Why you bringing up old stuff?
I'm just
That's
saying.
no, that's old stuff. Don't no.
Week.
That's old stuff. You bring it up. That's rude. That's rude.
Hey, it's his life. But I'm just happy to be here. You know,
I don't like your attitude today. I don't like your attitude today.
I mean, we got this whole matching thing, so we supposed to just
yeah. I guess we gotta just like
together,
run with it. With everything that's going on, but it is what it is. We got a whole lot of sports to get into, but we're gonna start off with football because there's a lot that's been going on. You know, outside of the games and whatnot that have been actually going on this past week. Outside of sport, Adrian Peterson got into a little bit of trouble. We know the whole Ray Rice situation is going on, but let's start with Adrian Peterson because some new accusations, some new charges may be being brought along. If you guys don't know what happened with the whole Adrian Peterson situation, he was arrested and released on a $15,000 bond for child neglect. So he beat his son. Supposedly, allegedly, he took a switch off a tree. If you guys don't know, if y'all not, don't have that South upbringing, that's when you got to go out and you pick a branch off a tree, you take the leaves off, and you basically get hit with it.
And if you don't come back with a big enough one,
yeah,
they go out there and get one with you.
Exactly.
It's gonna hurt worse.
But actually, the thing, you're supposed to, if the biggest ones hurt less, but that's neither here nor there.
I always avoided those things, but yeah.
Basically, the pictures that that they showed of Adrian Peterson's son, he kind of took it to the extreme there. He left bruises on his legs, marks, and all of that. So it's just a sad story. But he was deactivated for this Sunday's game, which actually affected you, Sean Fontaine, because you do have him on your fantasy football team. But you do the crime, you have to do the time. Since then, he has actually been reactivated, so he is going to play this Sunday, barring any new information coming in. But Sean, I mean, what do you think about the whole situation?
Well, I'm all for the whole, disciplining kids, but I think he might have went too far, of course, because the child that actually received the whooping, per se, was about 4 years old. I mean, there's other ways that you can discipline kids that are that age. I didn't necessarily see something wrong with the whole situation as a whole, but the whole outcome as far as him getting whooped like that and him only being 4 years old, that might not have been the best situation. He's just in a tough spot right now. Another situation came up from 2013, and it was text messages found and stuff like that. So, I mean, he's in a tough spot right now. They're kind of losing some the team is somebody backed out, the hotel. What is it, the Radisson? They backed up with the sponsorship or whatever. So, it's kind of in a tough spot right now. I'm not sure if it's the owner of the team or the president. He's backing them, but then, like, the mayor of Minnesota is telling them to basically keep him suspended. So, I mean, it's just a back and forth type of thing right now. Adrian Peterson is pretty much a well-known guy. A lot of people love him out there. But, I mean, he's in a tough spot, like I said. You discipline your kids, but there's certain ways you got to do things. And in the time and in the day and era that we in right now, there's certain things you can't do. I remember when I was working with kids some years back, and we had a meeting, and our boss basically told us there's certain things that we can and can't do, and one of those things were like, let's say if a kid got in trouble and you made a kid stand up, that would be capital punishment.
Yep.
So I mean, he's threatened. It's real funny, and by him being in the public eye, he really has to watch what he do, what he does or whatever,
Yeah.
because everything is going to be heightened. It's going to be taken to a whole nother level. So
Exactly, and we know, when it rains it pours. So you got to understand that as soon as the first thing comes out, then the second thing is gonna come out, and it's going to just keep going, after that. So like you said, the text messages coming up from 2013.
mhm.
So it's just a whole bunch of things that's going on right now. But again, he was deactivated, like you said. Now the mayor wants to get involved. I mean, the mayor really has no say in what the team does, but he can, make his presence felt throughout the city of Minnesota. And if the fans, call for that, then we might have a situation where they are forced to, to do that. So we're gonna have to wait and see, with that whole thing. But it's gonna be a developing story. We also have the Ray Rice situation. So much stuff is going on outside of football. We haven't even gotten to the games yet. We know what happened with the Ray Rice situation, where he punched his then fiance Janae in the elevator. She actually hit her head on the side of the elevator. She was knocked unconscious. The tape was available. Allegedly, the NFL executives and whatnot did not see the tape prior to the release from TMZ a little bit over a week ago. Now there's other reports coming out since then that are saying that the NFL did receive the tape back in April, and that executives actually watched the tape. Supposedly, there's a recording of the tape of one of the NFL executives saying that she received the tape and that it was horrible. You know, which means that she definitely, somebody had to have watched the tape. So since then, Ray Rice was released by the Ravens, and he's been suspended indefinitely by the NFL. Let me first say this, because we've discussed the actual domestic situation on the show a couple of weeks ago. We all agree there's never a situation where you should put your hands on a female. So we're not gonna go back into that. But the issue that I'm having with the whole situation is that, you know, Roger Goodell, who says he didn't see the tape. They said they never got the tape. There's been a whole lot of back and forth, he said, she said, stuff going on. Regardless of the fact, Ray Rice was given a punishment, a 2-game suspension, and then he was then suspended indefinitely after the tape was actually released. Ray Rice, has said, on Outside the Lines, they also reported that he told Roger Goodell from the
what actually
beginning
happened?
that he punched his wife in the elevator. So if that is the truth, that means Roger Goodell would have already known, and it wouldn't have mattered whether or not he had actually seen the tape, because he already knew what happened. If he actually told him he punched his then fiance in the elevator, it's nothing different from on the tape from that story. That's what would have actually happened. So I'm at odds with this new indefinite suspension. First of all, Mark the Statman Skevich is with us on the set right now. What's going on, Statman?
Well, great to be back on the set of Real Fans, Real Talk. We're going to obviously talking about Domestic Violence Week in the NFL, but we will be discussing a lot of sports topics as well. We kind of beat this to death, no pun intended, over the past couple of weeks. It's a very serious matter. I don't mean to joke about it or anything. Trip Young pretty much covered over all the basics. Ray Rice was not hiding any of the details. He said what he did, and somehow the video made it where the suspension wasn't sufficient enough. I felt that the suspension should have been a lot harsher in the first place. It's not like he just pushed her or anything like that. I mean, yes, she was swinging at him too, but I mean, you're a professional football player in the NFL. You're obviously going to punch her a lot harder, and that's obviously what he did, and that's just completely unacceptable. The Adrian Peterson situation, that's been, hitting your kid, and the fact that he sees nothing wrong with it whatsoever.
after looking at all the bruises on the kid. It's not just a spanking on the butt. You're talking about taking a tree branch and beating a kid repeatedly. Then there's another story that there was another kid involved from earlier in the summer, I believe in June. Someone else's kid that he apparently hit, and I know he went through the death of his kid last year. I'm not sure if that had some type of a mental health issue with him. I can't even imagine what he went through and how psychologically damaged he is. But for him to be hitting kids, I just don't make any sense of that whatsoever. But it is about that time to actually talk about football. I know these are very serious offenses and very serious legal issues. I think the NFL is doing a horrible job with both of them. But let's talk some football because I'm a little.
Well, before you say that, you're not alone in your thoughts because Anheuser-Busch, which is the parent company for the official beer of the NFL, has also made a statement, and I'm gonna read this to you guys verbatim. We're disappointed and increasingly concerned by the recent incidents that have overshadowed this NFL season. We are not yet satisfied with the league's handling of behaviors that so clearly go against our company culture and moral code. We have shared our concerns and expectations with the league, and this is a company that spends over $200 million a year with the NFL. You know, so you're definitely not alone in that. Sean Fontaine, you mentioned that the mayor of Minnesota, you know, had his issues. I just got through the wire that the governor of the state, of which I believe is Jesse Ventura. Is Jesse Ventura still the governor? He's now chimed in on it. He's unhappy with the whole Adrian Peterson situation. I guess because they reactivated him so quickly, you know, before anything actually, you know, they got any further information. So, I mean, this is just a lot. Then you have the Ray Rice situation. Again, my only issue with the Ray Rice situation is that if the league, after the Ray Rice situation, the league implemented a new domestic violence policy, which stated that for your first offense, it would be a 6-game suspension, and for a second offense, you would get a lifetime ban, which I was okay with. My issue here is that now you give him an indefinite suspension after you already gave him a 2-game suspension. If they had just went to 6 games, I would be okay with that.
Well, you know what's going on with that whole situation? I don't know if anybody knows, but Roger Goodell just got a raise, anyways, from the owners of the league, because he makes them a lot of money.
Of course.
So what's really going on is, you know, he possibly, of course, he may have known about it, about the footage or the video or whatever happened, and he basically tried to sweep it up under the rug because these owners and people are making him a lot of money. So now it's to the point where everything is coming back into full effect, because you got the TMZs of the world. They're putting things out there, and there's nothing that you can hide. So now,
exactly.
So now he's looking real funny. Now, as far as Ray Rice, he did go on record saying that he did, he did it. He admitted it. He did punch her or whatever. The 2-game suspension was basically Roger Goodell trying to cover his behind, thinking that this footage would never come out. Well, now it came out. Now you're looking real bad, and you got a bunch of players getting in trouble, and now everybody's pointing their finger at you.
Well, it makes it worse now that whole Adrian Peterson just came out on top of that.
Well, that too.
Now it's just like,
and these are players that don't have a history of doing this foolishness, but it's like, you know, it doesn't matter. You get in trouble, you get in trouble, period.
That's the bottom line.
Whether it's big or small or whatnot. So it's like everybody's looking at Roger Goodell and saying, like, what are you doing? Yeah. This stuff wasn't going on when Tagliabue was there. I mean, people were getting in trouble, but
not like this. Well, but you know what? We don't know, because we have to look at the fact that now we're in an age where social media controls a lot. And just how, like, now you have a company like TMZ who can get access to this stuff. You also have YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram.
A regular person taking a YouTube video, and that's it.
And there you go.
Well, even like how Riley Cooper got in trouble last
exactly.
year,
That was just a regular, smartphone video, and you get caught out there.
Before, people didn't have cameras handy unless you worked for one of the TMZs, because the TMZs of the world were always around. You always had the tabloid magazines and stuff, but now smartphones are everywhere. The average person walking on the street could catch them doing something.
Exactly.
And Anheuser-Busch, that's a big one. I mean, you have an alcohol company sponsoring people with domestic violence issues and DUI issues. It's not it's not exactly a good look. So I mean, $200 million a year, that's something that might cause heads to roll, and Roger Goodell being one of them, because a lot of people are calling for his head. On a smaller note, the Radisson Hotel for the Vikings sponsorship for Adrian, because they reinstated Adrian Peterson. Ray Rice obviously appealing the suspension. I mean, the fact that it's an indefinite suspension when you come out and say one thing where it's 6 weeks, and then the second time it's indefinite. Now it's, you know, he had one issue, so it should be 6 weeks. I mean,
which is that, and that's my issue. I don't have a problem with the suspension because I think he should have been. But my problem is, you already gave him a punishment. But if this video comes out, let's just say you didn't see the video, which I really don't believe. But if you didn't see it, you got to go to the 6 games. You can't now come and say, well, we're going to give you an indefinite suspension because you have just made this policy 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, well, I told you, it's a lot of these people are getting in trouble, and they're making these brash decisions, and that's what's going on right now.
Yeah, but then why haven't we had a suspension for Adrian Peterson? He was deactivated by the Vikings. They didn't suspend him. He could have actually played this game if they didn't. You know what I mean?
Well, that's also attached to like how they were saying before, as far as like, let's say if a player got in trouble for PEDs or anything like that, is that on the same playing field as domestic abuse or DUI and stuff like that? So that's really what that is.
That's the thing,
they're putting the pressure on them because of abuse towards women. It's not none of this is a good thing.
And
but,
they're making too quick of a decision on these things too. Like, I mean, something happens and then the next day they're saying 3 weeks or something. Then they come out and say 6 weeks. And then they don't know what to distinguish what from what. Like, what penalties are worse. Like, they should have really taken a little bit more time because
to establish everything.
Yeah, because nobody's really thinking that any of this stuff is fair. So I mean, you really got to take some time and sit there and think. And obviously they have a lot of executives in the league, to a lot of smart people that could sit there and, a big legal team that they could come up with some formula for punishment that's that the general public would find fair. Because this is just something like, all right, that sounds good.
Let's go with it. And then now
I realize this is wrong with it, that's wrong with it, that's wrong with it.
Maybe we should have given him more than 2 games because the whole world saw this videotape, even though we already knew what happened on the tape.
They're greasing his palms, man, and now he got in trouble. So now it's like they're pointing the finger at him. So,
well, there are teams that are interested in Ray Rice right now. There's several teams that once they actually find out what's going to go on with this suspension, will be looking to sign Ray Rice. So I would not be surprised at this point if we saw Ray Rice playing again this season.
Yeah, I mean, that was a dumb move on the part of the Ravens.
Yeah, that was another thing.
Once again, another harsh, quick decision. You want to try to make it seem like you don't want to affect local sponsors and things like that, like what happened with the Vikings.
They knew what it was. Yeah. That's my problem. You knew what it was, okay? And again, even if you didn't know the whole story, but again, outside the lines reported that they knew about the tape. Ray Rice was up front with everything that happened. He said that he punched her, and you know what I mean. But even let's just say you didn't. I mean, at the end of the day, they walked into the elevator alert, and both of them were alert and well, and he basically carried her out of the elevator.
If they have footage of Jay-Z, Beyonce, and Solange in the elevator,
exactly.
You're not telling me that they don't have footage.
Every elevator, almost every.
Come on now. Come on.
Now, on the flip side, because I'm glad that you brought that up, because I want to play devil's advocate here. Why doesn't Solange get more backlash for what she did on that elevator? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we always come down on men in these domestic situations, but why didn't Solange get more backlash for her actions? And that was, Jay-Z showing some real restraint. And now, if Jay-Z had done anything, any kind of reaction to that, the world would have jumped on Jay-Z for that. Yeah, it would have been so bad for Jay-Z. So why is it that when it's a man, you know what I mean, you get all this backlash, but I haven't heard anybody,
he
negative
could have probably
about
pressed
Solange.
Charges and stressed the issue.
But it doesn't matter because the state can pick up that. You got video footage of her assaulting this man, attacking him in the elevator. So they can actually just take it and run with it. Jay-Z doesn't necessarily have to even say anything. But I mean, as far as, why wasn't there any backlash against Solange? Like, why is it? Because if we always have these issues with double standards, why is one thing, bad, and the other thing is just like, well, okay, and we don't say anything about it. We just make jokes about it and put up memes on Instagram and on Facebook about it.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much the extent of it.
Yeah, I mean, we learned one thing: we need to take the stairs when we're with the ladies.
Either way.
Hey, listen,
If you're a
Beyonce said it best.
celebrity, you gotta
Things go
take the
down when it's $1
stairs.
billion on the elevator, I
Right.
guess, right? So it is what it is. But finally, we can actually get to some of the football games that went on this past week. First of all, let me just say this, because football season also brings fantasy football. In the first 2 weeks of fantasy football, Trip Young went up against Mark the Statman Scavenge in week 1 and Sean Fontaine in week 2, and he got the job done both weeks. It's a close matchup against Fontaine, but I
was
came
coming
through in
for
the
you.
end. You were. But listen,
Adrian Peterson messed me
the
up.
Trip Young Superstars is 2-0 in fantasy football land. Y'all better check us out. We on the Yahoo Fantasy Football League, but we're gonna keep it up. But onto the games that went down. A lot of upsets, a lot of injuries going down this past week. What's up with RG3, man?
Man, he's like Glass Joe, man. I don't know. He just can't stay healthy. To save
I
his
wish
life.
your line they called him Mr. Glass
They
Statman.
called him Mr. Glass from the movie Unbreakable
Yeah.
with Samuel L. Jackson. and,
That's the
Bruce
new
Willis.
Mr. Glass. We don't know
Used to
yet.
be used for Michael Vick
Oh.
as his title, but
But hey, Michael Vick actually put in a lot of work before he started getting
Yeah.
those kind of injuries,
Yeah.
though. RG3,
He started getting hurt in college.
yeah. So I don't know, man. But Kirk Cousins did come in and play very good. So that job, he might have to do some things to get that starting job back, because Kirk Cousins came in and he lit it up out there. And the Redskins put up a lot of points on Sunday.
yeah, I mean, I do want to get into the Giants, because obviously the Giants haters want to go out there and.
We already had some hate
That
this
was
morning
the
on the show.
absolute most boringest game in my life. First of all, let me put that out there. All right, but you were saying
That-
something.
That wasn't that boring. It
I
That
down
shit
to
was a
the
good
wire,
game,
like,
yeah.
I mean,
It was two bad special teams plays that
Some
cost the Giants
not
the
turnovers.
only
game.
that, you have Jennings, who's rarely
Drop
fumbles, so he
passes.
has a fluke fumble where he probably didn't even have. Well, I mean, he had complete control. I mean, by ruling, it was like 2 steps he took and then lost it. So he normally doesn't fumble. So this is like a fluke fumble while they're in the red zone. Eli Manning threw 2 interceptions. One of them was in garbage time, literally the last play of the game. And one of them bounced off of a defender's shoulder pad, which was a deflection, but still Eli's fault on a bad pass.
And they were still in a position to win that game.
It was still, yeah, despite all the mistakes. I mean, the punt return for a touchdown, a lot of mistakes on the part of the Giants. They just couldn't catch a break towards the end of the game. Eli Manning did what he could. He played a good game. Drop passes from Victor Cruz 2 weeks in a row. But the bone I have to pick is with one of our fan mail questions. Drew from Philadelphia writes, everyone on the panel is a fan of an NFC East team. Can you guys finally
man.
admit that the Eagles run the East now?
First of all, Drew, you're lucky that we put this fan mail question up here. All right? I'm going to shout out Philadelphia, because I know we have a lot of fans in Philly. So I'm going to shout the whole Philly out. But, Drew, you're extremely lucky that we even put this fan mail question on the rundown today. But, oh, man, no, I will not admit that the Eagles run the East, because they don't run anything.
'Cause everybody beats
You-
everybody up in that conference.
Exactly.
Like, nobody-
You have to win in order to do that. The Eagles have no Super Bowl championships.
Y'all got
So,
Campbell's, Chuck, and
Until
Soup.
until you get a Super Bowl ring, then you can talk to me about
Donovan
the
McNabb has
Eagles.
the Campbell's chunky.
Yeah,
you don't
McNabb.
have that
Not
anymore.
even the
Yeah,
Eagles.
so they didn't even have that. So not even the Eagles. Donovan McNabb took that and ran with it when he left the team.
He just
all right?
added fuel to the fire. Now you have the whole
Yeah.
panel agreeing on hating
Exactly.
Philadelphia.
So Drew,
thank you for that.
because I know
one,
you're
Drew,
watching
but
right now. No, all right. The Eagles do not run the NFC East.
How come, like, the Giants start out 0-2 and everyone's, pretty much done with them? But you got the Colts down 0-2.
Yeah.
You got the Saints who are starting 0-2. You got some good teams out there that are 0-2, and but the Giants are 0-2, and it's automatically over with. This is a team that has a 2-time quarterback Super Bowl MVP.
That squeaked by and won the Super Bowl. So
Squeak by.
First of all,
They were the underdog in every single
Yeah.
matchup
they
one
squeaked
year.
by and they won the Super Bowl.
Every
So
matchup but one. The second
I'm
year.
almost
That was
agreeing
it.
with you. I'm almost agreeing with you because you know a lot of those.
Do you realize they did it on the road?
But this
they went on the road?
This is what I'm
Cowgirls
saying.
can't even squeak by a
This-
playoff game.
Listen. Those 2 seasons, they you know it went down to the line because that division they beat each other up anyways, and those the Eagles are not the best. Let me put that out there again. But I can't count the Giants out. You know they went 0-6 the first half of the year last year, and they still could have possibly made the playoffs. You know that division is just too finicky for you to even try to say that for you to count the Giants out. And at the beginning of the year, they don't play that good. You know
It's always a battle in the NFC
Yeah.
East between all 4 teams. Even the Redskins, RG3 came out when he was healthy that year, and he was the playoff guy 2 years ago for the Redskins. So, it's
victories from
anybody's year all the time with the NFC East. The Giants have dominated for the past decade. The Cowgirls fans can talk about ancient history,
we'll
how
lose
they
the
used
last
to
game
have
of the
it.
year every year.
I mean,
Listen, it's a lot going on, but the East is always going to be up for grabs. It's just a tough division. I always compare them to the AFC North or another tough division. So it's going to be a battle this season. But
thank you, Drew, for writing in, even though you're completely ludicrous.
yeah, thanks. We appreciate the fan. More questions. Somebody who else is completely ludicrous is Josh Gordon, who is appealing his season-long suspension, but just pled guilty to a DWI charge in North Carolina today. So, Josh Gordon, I just do not understand you. First of all, you messing it up for fantasy football land because nobody can actually pick you this season, and you're probably the third, maybe even second best wide receiver in football. So from that standpoint, and then on top of that, I mean, your career, you throwing your career away. You're flushing your career down the toilet with these DWIs, these marijuana, smoking charges. I don't understand you, brother. Get your act together, man. You are wasting millions of dollars with your foolishness. Whatever you want to do, wait till you finish. Wait till the end of your career. Retire first. I can't call him. That's one thing J.J. Watt, said. It was a week ago. He made a statement about him not doing things like having fun and partying and all that. He said he has a limited amount of time to play football, and he wants to get the most out of it. And when his career is over, he can focus on all of that. But for right now, he's just gonna focus on football and just competing at the highest level.
So he could walk into a room and say, "Shut you down."
Well, I think that's the difference between
commercial's
a
funny,
lot
by
of
the way.
players that actually made it and players that didn't make it as a whole. Because we were a lot of guys that we probably played with in high school, maybe in college or whatever. And these guys, they could have went to the next level, but they just wasn't focused like the J.J. Watts of the world. Or you couldn't be like Josh Gordon and still do foolishness and still make it to the professionals or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think about, any champion, like Derek Jeter, even in another sport. Like, he's very careful about what he puts into his body for training, which is why he's, as old as he is and still an elite shortstop, an all-star shortstop. I mean, if you want to be successful for a prolonged period of time, you got to make sure you're not out there drinking and partying and eating. Even you got to watch your diet, everything. Eventually you're gonna slow down. A lot of these guys, they get the big contracts and then they kind of fall off a bit. So
it is what it is. But another game I want to go to. We're not gonna get to cover all of the games today, but Seattle went into San Diego and gave up 30 points. Phillip Rivers and Antonio Gates connected on 3 beautiful touchdown passes. There was a whole, anytime the Seahawks lose or, there's a lot of passing yards and passing touchdowns against that defense, there's going to be a lot of back and forth talk. The Chargers receivers talking about Richard Sherman, how he was exposed. But what do you guys think? Statman, what do you think? Was he exposed in that game?
Well, Phillip Rivers, first of all, obviously kept his word because he said he wasn't going to be scared of any particular receiver. And, I mean, he's still a great cornerback. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But, I mean, things happen. It's not in Seattle, so that gives the advantage to San Diego because in Seattle, when the defense is out there, the crowd, you cannot hear a thing. If you're the offense, you cannot communicate with your receivers no matter how loud you try to scream. So that gives it an advantage one right off the bat. Phillip Rivers is a good quarterback, so were they exposed? Yeah, I mean they did. The numbers speak for itself. I mean it's not like every target went to Sherman in Sherman's direction, but obviously he didn't pull an Aaron Rodgers and just stay away from him all game. But I mean he got the job done, whether it was in Sherman's direction or the other direction. So.
What do you think, Fontaine?
Definitely. I mean, as a cohesive unit, they have to be like one of the best defenses. But I mean, like you said, he didn't try to avoid Richard Sherman, and it did kind of expose some things. They have some great backs coming out of the backfield, like Woodhead, and I think Matthews got hurt.
Yeah.
You know, it's football. Any given Sunday, anybody could get it. You know, no matter if you're the Super Bowl champion or you're the worst team in the league or whatever, everybody has a chance. And that team actually won some decent football games last year or whatever. So you definitely can't count them out. You know, and like you said, that 12th man definitely played a big factor.
I mean, I do. Nobody really predicted Seattle to go undefeated this season. So, and you know, I didn't think they would go undefeated, but I think they will go undefeated at home because they're that good at home. Maybe the only chance of anyone beating them at home is the 49ers, but they haven't been able to do it the past 2 years.
That's
so,
gonna be a good one too.
You know, they play each other twice, and it's been the same thing. You know, Seattle wins when they're at home. The 49ers win when they're at home the past 2 years. So I'm pretty much expecting the same thing this year.
On a neutral field, who wins, Seattle or San Diego?
That's a really tough one. Last year, I'd probably go with San Francisco, actually. Because, I mean,
I'm San Diego or
San
Seattle.
Diego.
On a neutral field.
Yeah, definitely Seattle.
Okay.
Between those two, yeah. But between San Francisco, if they had a neutral field, then I think San Francisco would win. Because, I mean, it's really the 12th man in Seattle that really takes them out. If it's a neutral and quiet, I think that
the way
that
San Francisco has played towards the end of last season and this season, I don't know about if on a neutral field if I would give it to San Francisco because they took a lot of hits this season on that defense.
I was thinking more last year, but this year it's a little bit more questionable. But.
Coming off of last year and seeing how the fans traveled, you know, with the Super Bowl being in New York.
The Super Bowl in New York, the noise was there for Seattle.
Yeah.
There you go.
It definitely was there.
You know?
I mean, that's a team that hasn't seen championships, so
you
know you're gonna go and you're gonna, you know, the fans that have the money in Seattle, they're gonna go and they're gonna take that trip to New York because number one, New York is a great place to visit regardless. So then you have your team who hasn't won a Super Bowl in town. You're gonna go to that Super Bowl. You're gonna spend a few $1,000s and you're gonna make it happen.
I was out there that whole week of the Super Bowl. I was out there on Super Bowl Boulevard.
Nothing but fans.
Yeah, and there were a lot of Seahawks fans out there. I was surprised by how many Seahawks fans came out.
We talking about Seahawks fans that travel.
Yeah, that came from Seattle from the West Coast and came here. So a lot of support for those Seahawks fans. Really quick before we jump into this weekend's main event fight, Thursday night football, Tampa Bay at Atlanta. Who you guys taking?
Going to Atlanta.
Y'all got to go with Atlanta in a bounce back game. Doug Martin has got hurt again. Yeah, Atlanta's at home.
Julio had a good week.
Doug Martin's still questionable though, whether he'll play or not. They said most likely he will play, but it's still.
Bob Rainey still had 144 yards in his when he filled in for him. But I'm going with Atlanta too at home. I think those guys are looking for a bounce back win this week because the Bengals did a number on those guys. But with that being said, we did have a main event fight this past Saturday night. Mayweather-Maidana Part 2, in which Mayweather got the decision. I mean, pretty much it was Mayweather, the majority of the fight. Maidana got a couple of good hits where you could tell Mayweather hurt him, but it was Mayweather's fight. I wasn't surprised. Statman, I know you weren't surprised. You commented on the group on Facebook that we mentioned it on the show. Fontaine,
I think this time it was more or less of a personal victory. It was more of a convincing win this time around versus the first time. Even though he said he didn't feel as though it was a better fight. I mean, it was more of a convincing fight. You at the latter part of your career. He had two more fights left?
2 more fights.
So it's like, he had to kind of prove it to himself that, hey, I can beat this man. I let you guys know that I can beat this man.
Yeah, well, I mentioned it previously, and I mentioned it on this past Sunday's radio show, which airs Sunday every 7:30 on the Blog Talk Radio Network, also archived on the iTunes Store and RealFansRealTalk.com. That he called out Maidana before the first fight, saying he's going to take it easy on him because the fans keep complaining that his fights are boring, and his defensive ability and everything tends to be boring fights, and they pay for pay-per-view. So he said it was going to make it a little interesting. And then after he beat him, he reminded the fans that that's what he said. He's going to make it interesting. So part two, I knew it was going to be Mayweather most of the way. It was going to be a much more dominating fight.
That's what
and,
it was.
Face Facts of the radio show this past Sunday said to all those fans that are complaining about it being a boring fight, you know exactly what you're going to get with Mayweather. So if you're going to keep paying that, pay-per-view, $60, $70, whatever it depends on.
They pay for it with the hopes that somebody may be able to beat
that's
Mayweather.
really
So you want to pay. It's that. I know it's gonna be the same, but it's a chance he could do it this time. So you want to,
It's not only that, they call it boring because he's a defensive fighter. You know he's a defensive fighter.
Yeah, he's been that.
You're not going to see a brawl with Mayweather. It's not like Tyson Holyfield. It's not two heavyweights colliding with heavy punches.
It's not even Amir Khan
and ears
one of
biting
those
off.
guys.
And it's not going to be like that. There was some biting though, supposedly.
Well, it was the other way around. Yeah.
On there with Maidana doing his Captain Crunch impersonation.
Yeah.
But I'm not even sure. We talked about that on the radio show as well. If you want to check the archives on our website, realfansrealtalk.com. You got wrapping around your hands. You got a glove, and Maidana has a mouthpiece on. So how much damage how hard would he have to bite down for Mayweather to say that 2 of his fingers were affected and his hand was numb for the last 4 rounds of the fight? I'm not buying that, Mayweather. I'm sorry.
Now here's the thing.
A mouthpiece, a glove, and wrapping.
I'm looking at the replay. It's something that I'm not gonna say it did or it didn't happen. But it looks like it could have happened. It's possible, but like you said, there's a lot of factors in that
I
one.
think he probably bit
So what? Yeah, because it looked like he did bit him, and if you look at Mayweather's face, it wasn't like Maidana was punching him, and you could hear Mayweather saying, I can't say the exact words that he was saying, but you could tell, something was going on, and Maidana wasn't punching him, and his hand was, close to, pretty much attached to his face. So
We had him in the full nose.
yeah, so it's possible that it did happen, and I don't know, because I don't know what size the gloves were that they were using, whether it was 8, 10, 12, whatever, the weight of the gloves, so I don't know, and there's no way to actually tell in a fight without taking off the gloves, which could be like a 20-minute process, and you're not going to stop the fight just to take off the glove. I mean, unless, he said it was too severe where he couldn't fight anymore, then maybe, but I mean, it is what it is. It wasn't like he was losing the fight, and he said that. You know what I mean? So it's okay.
But for them to be numb, I mean, I don't. He bit him on the side.
Yeah, it would have been
like his thumb.
Yeah, the thumb looked like
that.
the thumb. So, what are you gonna do? Either way.
Yeah, the thumb's not really. I mean, you have the wrap and everything. There's not that much protection on the thumb.
Exactly.
So, but he said 2 fingers were numb. So
Yeah.
Eyes.
Well, listen,
the
he
whole
got
hand
the
was numb or
he got the
something.
win.
Does he need a rabies shot
Right.
now? I
He
mean,
has
Ouch, Charlie.
he has 2 fights left this May and next September. You got Amir Khan, you got Danny Garcia, who just recently said, actually after the fight, said that he's going up to 147 because he wants to
Beat
fight
Amir Khan before.
Mayweather or Pacquiao. I mean, you got Miguel Cotto, who lost to both of them, but he's actually been lighting it up since he's been back. Who's the guy? Who?
Yeah.
2
I
fights.
want to
Yeah,
shout
Thurman
out
also.
Christian from the Bronx because he wrote in the fan mail question similar to that, where he asked Conor Garcia, who would you guys want to see Mayweather fight more? Obviously, the Pacquiao discussion was in the mix again. Mayweather kind of threw out there that let's make it happen, but it has to be on Showtime. And then when he was in the press conference, he kind of fell back a little bit. But who knows whether that's going to happen. But I think either one would be great to see. I'm probably going to go with Danny Garcia more, but I think the Khan fight is probably going to be the one if it's not Pacquiao, because it was originally supposed to be him in September, but due to Ramadan and the
holiday.
he said that can he push
He's
it
gonna be
towards
dieting and stuff like that.
yeah. Can he push it towards the end of September? And that wasn't the case. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah, you don't go
fasting
make
and
demands in
Ramadan.
the Mayweather fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Listen, I understand he has his religious things, but it's Mayweather. Mayweather make the call. He decide what it's gonna be, and if you want to get in the ring with Mayweather, then you gonna follow those stipulations, or you just won't get in the ring.
Mayweather said he did have a surprise for the fans for the May fight. He said that before fighting Maidana in the rematch. So,
But I don't think a surprise would be Amir Khan. That's not really.
I'm thinking
Yeah.
that would be Pacquiao.
Would have to be
That's
Pacquiao.
why everyone's making
Yeah.
that.
Well,
And I'd like to
assumption.
see
Well,
Danny Garcia before over Amir Khan, though.
Yeah.
May is usually the bigger fight for Mayweather. I mean, his name is Mayweather, and it's May,
Yeah.
so he likes to fight in May. That's when he fought
Canelo.
Oscar de la
He fought
Hoya.
him in
That's
May.
when he fought, a lot of the bigger names in his career. The Ricky Hatton fight in '07, that was in May.
Yeah.
The bigger names are usually the May fights. And I think, Pacquiao, Bob Arum and company really need to, if they could get 30% of that deal, they should probably take it because, Pacquiao is going to need that money with the issues that he had.
Hey, it's gonna be something. But
Tax
listen,
problems and all that. So.
also while we talking about boxing, myself and the stat man, we did get over to the Ring 10 New York charity event a little bit over a week ago. So we will be bringing you the interviews with retired heavyweight champion Tim Witherspoon and current middleweight boxing champion Danny Jacobs. So be on the lookout for that because we will be bringing that. We also interviewed Matt Farrago, who is the president of Ring 10 New York. If you guys want to check them out, the website is www.ring10newyork.com. Also, you can just hit us up on the web. RealFansRealTalk.com is our website, but you can hit us up on Twitter at RealFanTalk, Instagram at RealFanTalk, and again, Facebook.com/RealFansRealTalk, or hit us up in the group on Facebook because we're always going back and forth with whatever's going on in the world of sports. But like I said, soon, and we are actually going to jump into shot for shot because we're running a little bit low on time. While we're getting ready for shot, let me just say this. I mean, everybody knows the U.S. has been dominating in FIBA. They won the gold, easily. Kyrie Irving was the MVP of FIBA, which automatically guarantees them a bid in the 2016 Olympics. So shout out to the U.S. on that. It's always good when the United States dominates in any sport. So shout out to them. And
In Serbia, France ends up taking the bronze medal. I would have liked to. We had a special guest on the show this past Sunday. We would have liked to have seen Spain with the lineup they had. That would have been a good matchup, even if it wasn't the finals.
you got to make it though.
Yeah.
This is what it is. Obviously, it wasn't that good. They didn't make it.
I mean, the Gasol brothers, and he had a lot in Spain. I don't know.
That's the
what
thing. Yeah,
happened,
they didn't make it. If they was that good, they would have made it. So I mean, I think either way, the U.S. was gonna win in dominating fashion.
No question about that. Probably less dominant, but still dominant nonetheless. But all right, let's move along to shot for shot. The way shot for shot works, for those of you who haven't been tuning on the show regularly, we ask a series of 5 questions, 1 judge, 2 contestants. Whoever the judge agrees with gets the point. If there is no disagreement, no point is awarded. We don't give an advantage to the person who goes first because they could pretty much say all the details about the, make all the good points out there and then, not give them an advantage. So that's the way it works. We don't like to see the 0-0 go on for a little while, but unfortunately, that's the fair way to do it here on Real Fans Real Talk. No 20 points for 1 comment like some other shows do, but moving along. Trip Young, you lost last week. And
I did not lose last week.
2 weeks ago.
I was judging 2 weeks ago, so I didn't lose 2 weeks ago. Thank you very much, though. So I will be back in the ring, and I believe I will be facing Statman, who has been on the winning streak. I have to win this week because actually I had to wear that Red Sox hat, and I took some flack. Again, I was talking to Sean Fontaine about my students earlier, when one of my students got at me about wearing that Red Sox hat. So I'm coming back to take the title because I don't want to go back to those kids and they know I gotta wear a Red Sox
Want
hat.
to
So
shout out some of your students?
yeah, I'll shout out some of them. Just really quick. Edwin, I said Ty, Don, Ari, all you guys. Everybody. I keep doing your thing, and I'll see you guys when I get back.
Somebody's still gonna say you forgot about me.
Exactly. I know they're gonna say you forgot about me. That's why I'm shout out all of the kids,
You
all of
gotta
the
write
kids in the
down a
program.
list, right,
Listen,
of all the
y'all
shout-outs.
write down the name of all the shout outs and we'll put it up on the web or something, all right? Because I can't remember everybody's name, all right?
And then they're gonna want their cousin shout out. And everything,
Exactly.
and
So
everybody.
Joshua, all right? Yeah. So there we go.
All right, you got 5 off the list.
Yeah.
All right. First question. Do you agree with the Vikings' decision to reinstate Adrian Peterson?
No, I do not. I just think it's too soon. I mean, even if you're looking at it, from from a business standpoint, the sponsors are pulling out. I mean, you got the mayor of Minnesota, you got the governor of Minnesota who's stepping in. I mean, this is, now I'm not taking anything away from the Ray Rice situation. Obviously that's crazy in itself. But this is a child we're talking about. This is a defenseless child, a 4-year-old. And if you had saw the pictures, I've seen the pictures. Statman, Sean Fontaine, you guys have all seen the pictures. I don't know if you guys have seen the pictures at home, but I mean that little boy, his legs look bad. I mean going in to his inner thigh, and when you work with kids, you become a mandated reporter. So this is things that I had to be trained to look for. So when seeing those pictures, that's really bad. I don't think that they should have reinstated him this soon. I think you gotta wait and give it a little bit more time. So I'm gonna say I disagree with the Vikings.
Yeah, it's not just like I said, a little spanking on the butt or something. You're talking about taking a tree branch and like you said, the pictures, the welts all over. Like it's just not. They paid for it. Obviously, they lost the sponsorship with the Radisson Hotel, and I'm sure other Viking sponsors are going to drop out as well. This is another instance where people are just making too quick decisions. I understand that they got blown out by the Patriots, and Adrian Peterson is pretty much their top offensive weapon and has been the heart and soul of the team for the past quite a few years now. Possible record breaker at the same time, but I just don't think you reinstate him. It just, I mean, that's just too brutal from what I see. He doesn't even seem to have any remorse over the situation. It's definitely not something that I agree with at all.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you guys. I mean, I'm all for disciplining kids, but for a 4-year-old to get that's just a bit too much. That's a tie. So question number 2: Should the U.S. only allow the athletes that compete in FIBA to play in the Olympics?
I see how it could be a yes, because you got, you don't want the guys to make excuses for FIBA and then want to, all of a sudden show up for the Olympics. But then what happens with somebody that was injured? Then, if injury is an excuse, then maybe you turn around and say, all right, well, maybe you turn around and say you're injured when you're not. You have the Kevin Love situation where, he's obviously in a contract year. I'm sure he'd love to represent his country, whether it was FIBA or the Olympics, but he has to worry about the possibility of an injury in that. So I'm going to disagree, but you also want the best team possible. Yes, whichever the dream team, so to speak, they put together is going to be better than the majority of the other countries, but it doesn't always guarantee them a championship, as we saw years back. So you do want the best possible team possible. So you don't want to exclude a Kevin Love or a Kevin Durant who might turn around and say that they'll represent the country in the Olympics. So I'm going to say no.
This is a rough one because, I mean, you don't want to slight the guys that took the time to actually play in FIBA, because a lot of the guys, they just don't want to play in FIBA because it's not the Olympics. A lot of the top NBA guys, I know LeBron said he was actually going to be done without this. The last Olympics was going to be his last. But a lot of the guys, just don't want to do it because of the time that it takes out, and it's not the Olympics. So you don't want to slight the guys that dominated, the whole way through. But um, I don't think that it should be locked in like that because one, FIBA is one thing, the Olympics is on a completely different scale, and you want to have all basically you want to have the big guns out there. You want to have all of the biggest stars of the NBA out there because of the fact that it's the Olympics and you're trying to expand your brand worldwide. So you want the guys that they want to see around the world out there on the court. And if you're the NBA, I mean, you got to understand. Listen, these guys play 82 game seasons. Depending on how long they go into the playoffs, they go into that. The season could be extended. So these guys are tired, especially when you get a little older. Up there in years, the DeMelos, the Durants, the LeBrons, and whatnot.
Like
So you got to give them,
10,
you got to
9
give them the
years.
slack on that. If they don't want to do FIBA, I mean, listen, you see what the B and C team guys did in FIBA. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. And then you take a situation where you got an injury like what Paul George just had. You know, it is what it is. So no, I don't think they should be.
Yeah, I'm about to agree with you guys. USA, we want to win. All right. So
Exactly,
I'm
especially
pretty
Olympics.
and
That's bragging rights.
And I'm pretty sure all these other countries would do the same thing, like you said, with the Gasol brothers and stuff like that. So we're still at a tie. Which Week 2 outcome was more surprising? The Browns 26-27 victory over the Saints, or the Chargers 30-21 win over the Seahawks?
I'm gonna go with the Browns win over the Seahawks. Excuse me, over the Saints. The reason why is because again, I mean the Chargers were at home in San Diego. You know what I mean? So it's not like that's impossible for them to lose on the road. If they beat Seattle in Seattle, I'd be shocked. But and on top of that, the Chargers are actually a good team. I mean, they have a Pro Bowl level quarterback in Phillip Rivers who throws for 4,500 yards a season. You know what I mean? They got some really good receivers out there. They got a good offense out there. They got a good team overall. The Browns, I mean, we're in here shifting on who's going to be the quarterback. They don't know what's going on. They don't got Josh Gordon out there. So I got to go with the Browns. I mean, and the Saints, on the other side of the Saints, you got Drew Brees, one of the elite quarterbacks in the league. They got so many weapons on offense. The defense is actually beginning to improve after the whole, Sean Payton suspension and all of that. They're starting to get back to where they once were. That's just a rough one for me. So I got to say the Browns beating the Saints.
This is a tough one, but I'm going to go with the Chargers. So we'll have our first disagreement. Number one, it's still the best defense in the league. Yes, they're not at home. Yes, the Chargers are a good team, but at the same time, it's a 9-point victory. It's a more dominant victory. The Seahawks don't just have the best defense. They have a pretty good offense too with Russell Wilson, Marshawn Lynch. It's a more dominant victory, and it's against the defending Super Bowl champions with that defense. The Browns were at home as well. When you consider that factor, the Saints aren't as invincible, so to speak, as the Seahawks are perceived. So I would think that even though the Browns aren't that great,
the Browns are the worst team in that division, one of the worst teams in the league, and the Saints are a top team, team that won their division. They won their division the last couple of years outside last year. But I mean, you have Drew Brees out there.
Last couple of years outside last
So,
year.
Yeah.
all right,
Exactly.
I'm gonna have to go with Trip Young on that one. I mean, the Browns from week to week, they're a very finicky team. I feel like the Seahawks might have went down there sleeping on these guys, and they snuck away with a victory. Even though it's a 9-point victory, it's still a victory.
I was kind of leaning towards that one too, but I mean,
yeah.
I could go either way with it, so I figured let's throw out some disagreement there. But
Yeah, 'cause, I mean, it's just we're talking about surprising. I mean, they weren't playing. If they were playing, like I said, if they were playing in Seattle and beat Seattle in Seattle, I would no doubt say that. But we're talking about in San Diego, so it's a bigger chance for the San Diego Chargers to get a
I think
win.
weeks going forward with teams
the
like
Saints
this.
are on too. They lost week 1 too. So
Yeah, I think weeks going forward with teams like this, they're not going to sleep on these Saints and actually going to get the job done.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So we have 1 point for
a couple
Trip.
of minutes left. So
All right, so was Jonathan, what is it,
Papelbon.
Papelbon 7-game ban for the obscene gesture to the was it too harsh or was it just right or was it enough? And if you don't know, he grabbed his crotch while going towards the dugout after giving up a 3-run lead to the Marlins.
I'm gonna say too harsh. I mean, baseball players adjust their crotch all the time. I know that obviously wasn't what he was doing, but you know, I think it's too harsh. I mean, if he threw a middle finger up or something too, I mean, I don't know, 7 games. That's a long time.
I gotta disagree. I think it's just right. First of all, we all know the code. All right, as a man, you don't invite another man, so ain't really anybody to that area. That's the man code. You don't do that. All right. Then on top of that, you know, you representing your team, which is your brand, the MLB, which is, you know, an even bigger brand, and you representing yourself. You got kids at these games watching this. Come on, man. And we know it wasn't him adjusting himself. That was a gesture to the fans, and you was inviting them to that area. So no, I think it was fair.
I'm gonna have to agree with you again. I think it's just right because I think what tipped it over was when he got in the umpire's face and sat and was arguing with him.
Yeah.
I mean, had he not gotten in the umpire's face and he just grabbed his crotch, I would agree with Statman on that one. But that kind of tipped it over. If it was the manager that did that, it'd have been something different. But it was him. We already know who the winner is. Last question: if both quarterbacks are healthy, who should start for the Redskins? RG3 or Kirk Cousins?
I gotta say RG3 if they both healthy. It's too bad he just can't stay healthy. And that's no slight to Kirk Cousins because he played well, but that also could be in part that they didn't plan for Kirk Cousins in that game. They prepared for RG3. So I still gotta go with RG3.
I'm gonna go with Kirk Cousins because
You just want to get a point on the board if you can?
because he's been playing better, and you know, once somebody starts playing better and is more consistent, and you know, last year too when RG3 was out, Kirk Cousins was playing better than RG3 when he was healthy. So as long as he keeps playing better, the same thing happened with the 49ers with Alex Smith and Kaepernick. You know, somebody goes down, and as long as Nick Foles, as long as they're performing, you got to give them a chance and see what the other guy could do because RG3 is not getting it done even when he is healthy. So
he did lead them to the playoffs in the division win his rookie season.
I'm gonna give that the stat.
But
I'm
he
gonna
hasn't
give
been
that
the
stat
same since that season. You can't, you know, it's not what you did yesterday. It's what you're doing today. So you can't go back on the past. He hasn't been the same guy since his rookie year.
It is what it is, but I will still take my victory. Shout out to my kids again, because I told you I was not going to be wearing the Red Sox hat next week. So there you have it. Trip Young is back in full effect, taking the crown from Mark the Statman. Listen, you got to take whatever you can get.
I would have went the other way had he not gotten to the umpire's face and it would have been the manager.
Well,
he would have won that one.
There you have it. Really
Make
quick.
Make sure you check out Facebook.com/RealFansRealTalk to like us on Facebook and our website, RealFansRealTalk.com. We are running out of time, though.
This day in sports history, 1988 Cincinnati Reds, Tom Browning pitches a perfect game against L.A.
1993, the Minnesota Twins, David Winfield is 19th to get 3,000 hits.
This very day in 2000, Sammy Sosa becomes the second player to hit 50 home runs, 50 or 50 home runs in 3 consecutive seasons, joining Mark McGwire.
All right. Final thought segment, fellas. Really quick. We got to go.
Go Giants, Eli Manning. Get back on your stuff.
Go Noles, go Cowboys.
Well, it's not his fault, the last one, but I know.
Exactly, yeah. I'm a tag on that one. Let's go Giants, get it together. Hopefully we get Odell Beckham Jr. back soon. All right, and make sure you guys follow us on the web, realfansrealtalk.com, Twitter @realfantalk, Instagram @realfantalk, Facebook.com/realfansrealtalk. Hit us up on the web, fan mail @realfansrealtalk. Send all your questions in. You know we're going to answer them. For myself, Trip Young, Mark the Statman Skevich, Sean Fontaine, and Statman with the mic drop. It's Real Fans Real Talk. And we up out of here. We will see you guys next week. Peace. Yeah.
Recommend the CAT scan, and if your brain checks out, then you deserve a backhand. Sports, gossip, all the hot topics. RealFansRealTalk.com got it. They got the hottest bloggers. Is Jeremy Lin hurt? Well, log onto the site and you can hear it from them first. I'm talking about the latest. I'm talking about the greatest. Go check out the archives. Even tell a neighbor. Tell them Bobby sent ya. From spring to winter, tuning in should be the only thing on your agenda. Certified cosign, you know what I'm about.